I had been interested in art all my life. I was an art major in college, and then I studied fashion art at Parsons in New York, and did a training program at Macy's based on the principles of art to make salespeople more effective. So I've always had this yen to be a part of art, and when I heard that the Dali collection was going to be given to the city of St. Petersburg and they were looking at a downtown location, I thought, that would be convenient, that would be easy. I came to the Dali Museum when it was just a new building. They had trained the first class of docents ready for their opening in 1982. So I was a part of the second class, but while I was learning to be a docent, I also worked in the gift shop. Back in the days when we had regular cash registers and you didn't have to be able to work a computer to sell 3 postcards at 60 cents a piece. We were so unbusy for weeks and months at a time that you had time to learn a lot by just being there and getting acquainted with Mr. and Mrs. Morse, the people who were giving this a magnificent collection to the city. The city was not, the residents of the city were not excited about have Dali's art here in town. They were very unimpressed with what they thought they were going to see. Dali was so totally a creature of his own manufacture. He was such a natural marketer that everything we heard and read about him was designed to make you snicker or make fun of it. They didn't really anticipate the thinking that went behind Dali's art. A lot of the locals wouldn't come near the museum. They didn't know what they were going to see, but they were sure they didn't like it. A lot of people come to the Dali Museum expecting to make fun of the art. And instead of making fun, they have fun because there is something to engage every single person who comes in, regardless of their motive. I keep my tours fresh by trying to appeal to each group as though I've never told them this before, which of course is the truth. They come not knowing what they're going to hear, and if I'm able to spin a tale that captures their fancy, they will have left having had fun. I started out by just talking about the paintings, the technique, the brushwork, how you could never see a brush mark, the things that inspired Dali, anything from his nursemaid to a bowl of fruit. But as I've learned more and more about the man and his interests, I realize that he has spent his whole life trying to reconcile 2 different religious influences that he grew up with: the total devotion to the Catholic Church of his mother's, his father's being an agnostic who made him question everything that the monks had taught him when he was going to school. And then his interest in science adds another influence, and of his thinking and his awareness of the expanding universe. He said to a reporter in the 50s when he was lecturing on a college campus, "You know, our universe is constantly expanding." Now that is just in the news in this last couple of years. But he was so hip to what was happening in the entire universe that you can't be indifferent. Knowing the Morses was a source of appreciation of people who really are devoted to their cultural interest. I hear so much about people buying art just as investments, and they never would talk about what they had paid for a painting. They never bought one single painting, small or large, that they didn't want to live with. They wanted it because they wanted to enjoy it. And that's an awesome thing. I think Ren would hate the growth of our museum. He didn't like having things having to be controlled. He loved chaos. Every time there was a total breakdown of the system, Ren would say, "Oh, Dolly would love this." He loved chaos. But I think Eleanor would have been absolutely thrilled to see how we have become an important influence in the art world. And I know she would be ecstatic over the geodesic windows, because this was what Dolly had topping his museum in Spain. I would like to shine a spotlight on Joan Croft, who has been our curator of the Morse collection from the time she finished art school. And the Morses needed somebody. They hired this girl just out of art school named Joan Croft, and she went to work. Over the years, she has probably become one of the most knowledgeable people in the world about Dolly's art, what is his, what is fake, what the whole history of the Dolly collection, because she has been there for all of these, I guess, 35 years now. She's an awesome person. The Order of Salvador has become a big annual event at the Dolly Museum, started by the Morses to get important people involved in celebrating the Dolly Museum and supporting it financially as well as in other ways. Once a year, they are invited to become a member and are knighted by being presented to the Board of Trustees, usually with one of the Morse family. Now that Eleanor and Ren are gone, the son Brad is our Chancellor at Large. He is the one who wields a sword when you are knelt in front of him on a little stool, and he touches you on each shoulder and announces that you are now a member of the Order of Santiago. So it's satirical, but it also is sincere. Dolly volunteers seldom see each other because we all work on different schedules. But when you see somebody that was in your class 20 years ago or whatever, You say, oh, we never get a chance to be together. Well, the once-a-year dinner is when it always happens. And it is enhanced by one of our volunteers who left a provision in her will to help pay for the volunteer dinner. So every year we honor her memory. She is now in Arlington, Virginia, in the cemetery, and we like to remember Ann McDonough for just that. I think the Dali Museum is one of the most splendid things that has happened to St. Petersburg. With its advent, it sort of started an interest in art. And I look at all of the little art studios that have opened along Central Avenue. I see the success and the enlargement of our St. Petersburg Fine Arts Museum. They keep adding new parts of their collection. The same with the Ringling. It keeps growing. And the Holocaust Museum. We are really becoming a center that is focused on art. The Dali Museum is a constant change in the way the art is presented. It's not the same thing where you know if you go into the second gallery you're going to see your favorite painting. It may be in a totally different context next month. So it is always an invitation to come and see what it does with your imagination. When you get involved at the Dali Museum, you seem to be surrounded by people who are excited by thoughts, by accomplishments. It's more than looking at gorgeous old paintings and saying, I love this Rembrandt every time I see it. I love it. This keeps your brain stirred up. And for me, that's a good thing.